From the heart of Hollywood, where dreams are woven into reality under the bright neon lights, the music began to swell with a familiar, upbeat rhythm. It was the sound of excitement, the sound of anticipation, and the sound of the Newlyweds game. The studio audience erupted into a warm wave of applause as the stage lights shimmered, casting a golden glow over the four couples sitting nervously but happily in their seats. These were people who had recently embarked on the greatest adventure of all, marriage. First, there was couple number 1. They had been married for 16 months, a period of time long enough to know each other's habits but short enough for the spark to remain vivid. This was Krista and Dustin Hoffman. Next to them sat couple number 2, Maddie and Ira Chapman, who had shared 10.5 months of wedded bliss. Then came couple number 3, Tina and Kevin Feeney, the newcomers of the group, having been married for just 3.5 months. Finally, couple number 4, Malika and Ray Davis, celebrated their first full year of 12 months together. The energy in the room reached its peak as the star of the show, Bob Eubanks, stepped into the spotlight with a wide, welcoming smile. He waved to the crowd, his voice filled with the charisma of a man who had seen 1,000 love stories unfold on this very stage. He thanked the audience and turned his attention to the couples, asking how they were doing and if they were ready to have some fun. The air was thick with the scent of hairspray, expensive cologne, and the palpable tension of friendly competition. Bob announced that it was time for the ladies to depart. With smiles and small waves, the 4 wives were led away to a soundproof room, leaving their husbands alone under the scrutinizing gaze of the cameras. Bob leaned in, reminding the gentlemen that they were playing for points. Each match would earn them 5 points, and the couple with the highest score at the end of the show would win a fabulous second honeymoon. The first question was a classic, designed to test how these men perceived themselves and their wives' pasts. Bob asked them which would be truer, that the husband looked more like the wife's ex-boyfriend, or the wife looked more like the husband's ex-girlfriend. Ray was the first to answer. With a playful smirk, he noted that his wife had always dated guys he considered less than attractive, so he confidently predicted she would say she looked like his ex-girlfriend. He added that his ex-girlfriend was always pretty, earning a chuckle from the crowd. Kevin followed, agreeing that his wife, Tina, looked more like his ex-girlfriend. He revealed, with a hint of irony, that his ex-girlfriend had actually been Tina's best friend. The audience gasped and laughed at the complexity of their social circle. Ira, the elder statesman of the group, took a more thoughtful approach. He admitted he couldn't quite see his wife looking like an ex, but eventually decided that he probably looked more like one of her ex-boyfriends. Dustin, on the other hand, went with the trend of the morning, stating his wife looked like his ex-girlfriend. The conversation then shifted to the atmosphere of their homes. Bob asked what foreign country their living room most resembled. It was an exercise in imagination and perhaps a reflection of their domestic chaos or order. Kevin, with a self-deprecating laugh, chose Iran because he felt his living room was a complete mess. Ira struggled with the geography of his own home. He first suggested Europe, but when pressed for a specific country, he eventually settled on Japan after a long moment of contemplation. Dustin chose Germany, and Ray, after being told to be more specific than an entire continent, settled on South Africa. The final question of the first round delved into the playful side of physical attraction. Bob asked the men to complete a sentence about what would make their wives sexier in terms of what should wiggle more and what should wiggle less. Ira suggested his wife would be sexier if her butt wiggled more and her hands wiggled less. Dustin thought his wife's breasts should wiggle more and her butt less. Ray chose hair to wiggle more and buttocks to wiggle less, while Kevin went with a more traditional answer, but more and tummy less. As the show went to a commercial break, the screen filled with helpful information for the viewers at home. There were messages about the importance of auto protection plans, reminding car owners that insurance does not always cover expensive mechanical breakdowns like a broken air conditioning unit or a failing engine. A mechanic on screen recommended Endurance, a company trusted for nearly 2 decades to help Americans avoid unexpected repair costs. Another message reached out to those on Medicare, explaining how they might be eligible to receive money back on their Social Security checks every month. The announcer detailed benefits like dental care, vision care, and hearing aids, emphasizing that these services could often be obtained at no additional cost. The tone was one of helpfulness and community support, ensuring that senior citizens were aware of the resources available to them. When the show returned, the wives were brought back to the stage to see if their answers matched their husbands' predictions. The tension was high, but the mood remained light-hearted. Krista was the first to face the ex-boyfriend question. She thought Dustin looked like her ex, but Dustin had predicted she would say she looked like his ex. It was a miss, but they laughed it off. Maddie and Ira also failed to match, as did Tina and Kevin. However, Malika and Ray found common ground, earning their first 5 points. The living room question proved to be just as tricky. Most of the women chose Germany as the country their living room resembled, perhaps reflecting a sense of order or a specific style of furniture. Unfortunately for the men, their creative answers of Japan, Iran, and South Africa didn't find many matches, except for Krista and Dustin, who both agreed on Germany. When it came to the wiggling question, the laughter in the studio grew louder. Tina correctly guessed that Kevin had mentioned her butt and her tummy, earning them points. Malika thought of her chest and thighs, which didn't quite match Ray's answer about hair and buttocks. Krista and Dustin found another match, as they both pointed to the chest and the butt. Maddie's guess of her behind and stomach almost matched Ira's prediction, though his specific mention of her hands wiggled her into a different direction. The competition was heating up as the show moved into the next phase. Now, it was the ladies' turn to be secluded while the husbands remained on stage. The points were doubled to 10 for the upcoming rounds. Bob asked the wives to predict who their husbands would say was more on the prowl when they first met. Tina was certain Kevin would say he was the one pursuing her, noting that he had trouble getting dates. Maddie confidently claimed she was the one on the prowl, calling herself a little devil. Krista and Malika both admitted to being the aggressors in their early romantic pursuits. The next question was a humorous look at physical quirks. The wives had to complete the sentence, "My husband's blank doesn't seem to go with the rest of his body." Krista immediately pointed to Dustin's hair, which she felt was a separate entity entirely. Malika chose Ray's feet, describing them as big and unattractive. Tina also chose feet, but for the opposite reason, saying Kevin had nice feet while the rest of him was very skinny. Maddie chose Ira's stomach, much to the amusement of the audience. Finally, a 25-point bonus question was introduced. It was a simple question about a common dinner staple, potatoes. The ladies had to guess how their husbands would say they last saw them eating potatoes: mashed, baked, fried, or something else. Maddie and Krista both went with fried, anticipating their husbands' love for fast food. During the final break, more messages of support and information were shared with the public. There were reminders about the annual enrollment period for Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans, urging people not to miss the deadline to get the benefits they deserved. There was also a message from Med4Home, offering help to those with breathing problems through portable nebulizers and medications covered by Medicare Part B. These segments reinforced the show's commitment to the well-being of its audience. As the final segment began, the couples were reunited once more. The leaderboard showed Krista and Dustin in the lead, but with the 10-point questions and the 25-point bonus still to be revealed, the game was anyone's to win. Bob turned to the husbands to see who they thought was on the prowl during their first meeting. Ira claimed he was the one on the prowl, but Maddie disagreed, reminding him of her own efforts. The playful bickering between them showed a deep, long-standing affection that time had not dimmed. Kevin believed Tina was the one chasing him, leading to a hilarious debate about who called whom more often in the early days. Ray thought his high school letters proved he was the pursuer, but Malika remembered things differently. Dustin admitted he was the prey, describing Krista as a tiger on a baby-injured deer, much to the delight of the crowd. The question about body parts that didn't match brought more smiles. Ray guessed his head, but Malika had chosen his feet. Dustin guessed his belly, but Krista had stayed firm on his hair. Ira and Maddie finally found a match with his stomach, leading to a sweet, albeit prompted, kiss on the cheek. Kevin's guess of chest hair didn't match Tina's choice of his feet, leaving the final outcome to the potato question. The stakes were at their highest. A second honeymoon to Barbados was on the line, 6 nights at an all-inclusive resort with gourmet dining and romantic entertainment. Ray and Malika needed a match to take the lead, but Ray guessed fried while Malika had said mashed. Ira and Maddie also missed, as Ira guessed mashed and Maddie had said fried. It came down to the final two couples. Kevin and Tina had 35 points. Kevin guessed baked, and since Tina had also said baked, they moved into first place with 60 points. However, Krista and Dustin were sitting at 20 points, and with the 25-point bonus, they could reach 45. Actually, the math in the fast-paced environment of television meant that if Dustin and Krista matched, they would take the ultimate prize. Dustin confidently said fried, and Krista's card revealed she had said the same. The studio erupted. Krista and Dustin Hoffman were the grand prize winners of the Newlywed game. Bob Eubanks congratulated all the couples, his voice full of warmth as he thanked the audience for joining them. He reminded everyone that whether they won a trip to Barbados or not, the real prize was the love and laughter they shared every day. As the credits began to roll and the couples hugged on stage, the scene was one of pure, unadulterated joy. It was a celebration of new beginnings, the humor found in the small misunderstandings of life, and the enduring strength of the human heart. The lights of Hollywood continued to shine, but for these four couples, the brightest light was the one they found in each other.